Hi, this is Bill Cecil, and welcome to episode number 8 of the Best Year Ever or Bust podcast series designed to help uplift, motivate, and empower teachers just like yourself to make this and every year in the classroom your best year ever by helping your students make it their best year ever, despite any and all challenges that you may be facing. And again, that's a mindset. It's a 100% all-in mindset that says no matter what happens, I'm not going to let anything get in my way this year. I'm determined to make it my students' best year ever because I'm on a mission to also make it my best year ever. And so if this is what you're into, if this is the mindset you're looking for, you've already adopted, you're just trying to have people to talk to you about to help reinforce that or to keep it going strong throughout the school year, this is the podcast for you. So I hope you're enjoying it. And if it's your first time listening, welcome aboard, and I hope you'll go back and check out the first 7 episodes. In those, it's focusing more on empowering the listener, you, the teachers, to go in with some strategies and ideas of how you could help build your students into a winning team, and 4 strategies you could specifically use to help create a positive, safe learning environment that within 30 days you would start to really see big results going on in your classroom. Now, today I was going to talk about my 3-word doable plan for students to help them have their best year ever, but I'm going to back off that for one more week if you don't mind, because tonight what I would like to do is I would like to just spend an episode just to work on the part of uplifting you, right? I say I'm going to uplift, motivate, and empower. Well, I've motivated you to take some challenges like the 30-day challenge with, setting the table for success. I've been giving you tools to use and strategies to use, so I've been empowering you. But today I want to back up and uplift you a little bit, because by now you could be somewhere in between day 1 and day 30 of the 30-day challenge you're taking to master setting the table for success, to get those strategies to become a habit in your classroom. And maybe you're starting to, it's not moving fast enough for you. You feel like you're still seeing challenges and it's starting to wear you down. And maybe you even have doubts once in a while thinking, is this really for me? Can I really do this? Can I do this anymore? Or if you're a first-year teacher, am I really made out to do this? And so I'm here to tell you, yes, you are. Just give this time. But today what I'm going to do is I want to uplift you a little bit to keep you going strong. It's like taking a pit stop and putting some more gas in the tank, right? So I'm going to do that today before I give you the 3-word doable plan next week for your students to have their doable plan to help make it their best year ever as well, which will also benefit you. Okay, but today it's more about you. I'm pampering you a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to share with you just a quick story I had of a couple years ago. I was speaking at MSU. Kappa Delta Pi had invited me at Michigan State University to come and do a keynote address. And the theme of their expo really caught my attention. The theme of their expo was simply, I am a teacher! Exclamation point. Oh, I loved that when I saw that. I got excited right away. I don't need to know another thing. I want to be a part of this expo. And yes, I'll definitely do a keynote because I love this. Just the title of your expo grabbed my attention. I am a teacher. What a great statement. I am a teacher. It sounded so strong, so powerful. It reminded me of one of my all-time favorite billboards. It was a billboard about the U.S. Marines. It was so simple, and yet it seemed to capture the true essence of the Marines and really all of our armed forces. It showed 3 Marines standing tall in their dress blue uniforms. I remember this. All just were decked out, and they looked so proud. They looked so determined, and they looked so strong, purpose-driven, and most importantly, they looked like they were up for the challenge or any challenges that they were going to face to serve and protect our country and all our freedoms. And under the 3 Marines at the bottom of the billboard was a simple, strong statement. It said, the few, the proud, the Marines. I remember seeing that early in my career as a teacher, and it just grabbed my attention. And ever since I saw that billboard, I thought as a teacher, wouldn't it be cool how if we had a billboard, something like that for teachers, something simple yet so powerful that it would capture our essence? Inspired by that teaching expo, the title, the theme, I am a teacher, and the recent tsunami of new challenges many of you have been facing or dealing with in an already challenging profession these last few years. Now more than ever, I believe teachers should have billboards blanketing the sides of every highway and byway all across this country, each with a different teacher standing tall, looking strong and determined, proud, purpose-driven, and up for the challenge to secure our future by educating our children today. Wouldn't that be awesome? If you could drive around and see billboards of different teachers, but the message was the same in each one. The look on their faces was the same on every one. And people would drive by and look at these people and go, these are the type of people I want teaching my children. They look so focused. They look so determined. They look like they are up for any challenges they're going to face. And it would also remind us as teachers of who we are. I just love that. I am a teacher. And I make a difference every day. That's what our statement would be. At the bottom of our billboard, underneath every teacher, it would say, I am a teacher and I make a difference every day. Now, I know some of you out there listening may think that I'm kidding, but I'm not joking. I'm dead serious about this. I mean, think about it. With all the current challenges teachers are facing in the classroom today, there are some within our ranks, some within the teaching ranks, and some from the outside that aren't in teaching, looking in, questioning if we are still up for the challenge and even questioning our ability to succeed in our mission. This is why now more than ever, I truly believe that these billboards would serve a powerful purpose. They'd be a reminder to students, their parents, politicians, and to all people, including each and every teacher within our ranks. It would send a strong message that teachers are now and will forever be up for the challenge to secure our future by educating our children today. But bad news is we don't have billboards like that. And I'm not teasing you. I didn't mean to set you up and think, oh, it'd be great, Bill. Yeah, I'd be pumped. Oh, but we don't have them. No, but until that day comes, I believe every teacher or those preparing to teach, those currently teaching, and even those retired teachers like myself, we all need to be walking, talking, living billboards that model this powerful message. I am a teacher. And I make a difference every day. No matter where we are, if we're out grocery shopping, if we're out and about on weekends, if we're out talking to other people in public where they can especially hear that we're teachers, or even, I think most important right now, social media, if we're talking as teachers on social media. We need to think of ourselves as walking, talking, living billboards that model this powerful message. I am a teacher, and I make a difference every day. It should make people look at us and go, man, just looking at them, just listening to them. I respect teachers. They have this inner strength about them. You can tell they're focused. You can tell they're on a mission. This is what I tried to do throughout my teaching career. And I'm still striving to do this as a retired teacher because whenever I'm out and about, and I still get out and talk as a teacher, or people know me as a teacher in my community, and when I'm on social media, I watch my remarks. I watch what I'm saying because I still feel I represent our profession, just like each one of you represents our profession. We are walking, talking, living, breathing billboards out there every single day. So we have to be thinking about what message are we delivering. I hope it's, I'm a teacher and I make a difference every day. I want to share a few things that I want you to think about and do to be successful in your challenge to be a walking, talking, living, breathing billboard that represents us as I am a teacher and I make a difference every day. So what I want you to do is, number one, I'm giving you a little bit of homework again. And it includes writing. You can tell I like to write and give homework, I guess. So number one, I want you to write down on a note card and place it somewhere on your desk or someplace where you can see it often every school day. Please don't skip this step. This is important. And I want it to say simply, I'm a teacher and I make a difference every day, exclamation point. I want this to become one of your purpose, missions, or meaning as a teacher that you'll pursue each day. When you look at this, you'll remind yourself that not only are you a walking, talking, living, breathing billboard for our profession, for the people in your district, right? For everybody that sees you. Again, it could be parents, it could be students, it could be people out in the community, it could be the people you work with, but you represent us every time you walk into that school and beyond. When you walk out of that school, you still represent us, right? But every day, I want you to walk into your school, into your classroom every day with the mindset or the purpose or a meaning that you have the opportunity and the power every day to make a difference in your students' lives despite any and all the challenges, which I'm hopefully working with you to eliminate some of those and to minimize some of those using the powering strategies I've been trying to give you the first 7 weeks, and I'll be giving you more next week and throughout. But I also want to be focusing on this too, okay? I want you to walk in every day and think about this for the next 30 days. Make this a challenge. Every day I go in, I'm going to represent, no matter if I had a bad start to my day at home, I'm tired from yesterday, we didn't have a good day in class yesterday. I don't know what it is, right? You're still going to come in with that purpose-driven face, right? I am a teacher and I make a difference every day. There's a book I read a number of years ago by Dr. Viktor Frankl, and it's called Man's Search for Meaning. It's an amazing book. I would encourage every single one of you to read this book. It will put in perspective the challenges that you're facing. It will put them into perspective about challenges that other people have faced or could still be facing today in certain other different areas or work environments or countries or wherever. It's just a good reset for your thinking. And in this book, Man's Search for Meaning, it's about a World War prisoner who was forced to live in one of the Nazi concentration camps during World War II. And how it's talking about his experiences in these Nazi death camps or concentration camps. And it is a hard read. It's not an easy read. But what's fascinating about this read is that you think it'd be all gloom and doom. And a lot of it is going to make you go, oh my gosh, I can't imagine living like that, being forced to live like that. And yet it's a very uplifting book. And there's a couple quotes from this book I want to share with you from Dr. Viktor Frankl, that I think puts all this in perspective. Okay, because there's challenges right now. I'm not trying to get you to think there's no challenges in education. This podcast series explains it. There are challenges, but no matter what challenges you face, you're going to be up for the challenge. You're not going to let these challenges hold you back. Somehow, some way, you're going to find a way to get through these challenges because you're still on a mission to help your children have their best year ever so you can have your best year ever, right? So I'm going to share a couple of these quotes that jumped out at me that I thought would help you. So I'll read them slowly twice. So if you want to write them or if you want to stop, go back and, rewind it a little bit or go back a little bit and press play again. But I would encourage you to maybe save these two quotes. The first one says, "There is nothing in the world, I venture to say, that would so effectively help one to survive even the worst conditions as the knowledge that there is meaning in one's life." Oh man, that's powerful. I'm going to read that again. There is nothing in the world, I venture to say, that would so effectively help one to survive even the worst conditions as the knowledge that there is meaning in one's life. Worst conditions jumps out at me. Even with the tsunami of challenges that you've been forced to face these last few years, education has always been known to be a very challenging profession. But even recently, I did not teach during the last few years when this tsunami hit you guys, but just hearing the stories, I respect that you were in some very bad conditions. And so the worst conditions made me immediately think of you and of going through your worst conditions. Maybe if you've been in the profession long enough to compare it to other times that were challenging in themselves, but not like they've been the last few years. But what caught me was the hope in there. There's a hope in there as the knowledge that there's meaning in one's life, which means you can take anything if you know what the meaning is in your life. If you know it's worth those worst conditions, that you can still find meaning in your life and live your life with purpose. And then the second quote I love is that despair is suffering without meaning. Despair is suffering without meaning. Every time I hear teachers starting to really complain, or I hear teachers leaving the profession too soon, especially our new teachers, they don't even give themselves a chance to succeed. They give up too soon because the despair gets so heavy. And granted, I get it. It's a tough job. I can see how you'd feel despair. But the despair gets so bad unless you can plant in your mind a seed of meaning that it has a purpose. The suffering is worth it if you still are focused on your meaning, and your meaning is more important than anything that you'll have to go through. Even the worst conditions, you'd still be willing to get up and say, I'm doing this because my meaning is more important to me. So what I want is to survive the challenges you're facing as a teacher and to avoid despair. So to survive the challenges you're facing and to avoid that despair, what I'm hoping you'll do is you'll start tapping into either your career, meaning or career purpose or mission, or your life meaning or purpose or mission, or like I did, I kind of combine them to be one mission. I call it my life's purpose, right? If you can find out what that life purpose is, or that meaning for what you're here to do on this earth, or what you're here to do as a teacher, if you can focus on that meaning and go in every day and filter everything that you're going through, every single challenge that's making it hard, to still filter everything through your purpose, your meaning, you can make a huge positive difference, not only in your life as a teacher, but in your student's life as well. Because if you think about it, like I said earlier in one of the earlier episodes, when you go into a classroom, your kids, they'll pick up on your feelings about teaching, just like you can pick up on your students' feelings about school or about how they're doing that day. Maybe they had a bad day and you can pick up on it. They're going to pick up from you if you're having a tough time, or you're going through challenges and it's starting to bring you to a place of despair, or you're losing some of your energy or passion for it, right? But if you walked in every day with a clear meaning that I'm here to help uplift, to motivate, and to empower my students to believe in themselves, that could be a great vision or purpose or mission or meaning for you to come in every day to have. That was mine, because I wanted to light fires in students, because when I was a kid, I told you, I struggled. And I felt I didn't have teachers at the beginning, early in my career as a student or my schooling. I don't think they believed in me. They thought I was dumb, or they were comparing me to my sisters who they said were smart, which I assumed meant I was dumb. But I didn't think that they were really coming in looking at me, wanting to help me, uplift me, to motivate me and to empower me. You have that opportunity every single day to do it. And I'm not saying teachers don't do it on purpose. They just sometimes aren't thinking to do it. They're so overwhelmed with everything coming at them at 110 miles per hour every single day, fighting the clock every single day just to squeeze out a little bit more time to get your teaching. It's easy not to think of these things when you're in the mix of it. But if you're listening to this podcast, this is a great time to stop and really think. Am I doing it? Do I have a meaning? Do I have a purpose when I walk in my classroom every single day? Or am I letting things dictate my mood that are outside of the kids' control, and it's not fair to them if I bring that into the class anyways? It's like I always tell my kids, if you're in a bad mood, leave it out in your locker. If you had a bad start to your day, leave it out in your locker. You can pick it up at the end of the day and take it back home with you and deal with it, but don't let it disrupt your day in here. You're going to find positive things to get excited about in here today. Don't let that hold you back. So I want you to find meaning, mission, something that's much bigger than any of the challenges that you're going to face, that will help you every day as you go in to work these strategies and things that I'm going to be giving you to empower you. I'm not just trying to uplift you and then give you nothing. I've been trying to empower you and motivate you to do these things, but I want to uplift you so you'll stay in the game long enough to see results. So the one thing is, I want you to think about this. I don't ever want you to forget the difference you make every day that you walk into your classroom. You may not see instant results. That's the problem with teaching. In some jobs, they can do this, do that. They give you an operation. They fill a tooth, come in, build an addition to your house. You can see instant results. But with teaching, you don't always see instant results. What you're doing is planting seeds most days. You're planting seeds that may take years to take root or to really start to grow in students. And unfortunately, you don't sometimes get to see the end result, but you got to trust that you definitely are making a difference every day. And you may not even realize it, but you're making a difference, either positive or negative or neutral. But you got to understand you're making a difference every day. What kind do you want to make? And what do you think your students want you to make? I'll give you an example. I was talking to my wife about this episode and what I wanted to talk about. I remembered her telling me a story a number of years ago, and I asked her to retell it to me so I would be clear on what I'm going to share with you. This is one of the coolest stories I think I've ever heard. Teachers, sometimes we hear from our students years later, and you'll get that when you stick around long enough like I am. I told you I'm old. But seriously, you'll find people and they'll come up to you and say, "Oh, Mr. Cecil, you were the best teacher because you taught me this, or you did this, and that just reached inside of me and made me think of my dream, or that made me start to figure out what I wanted to do, or you believed in me when nobody else believed in me." And you're going to just love that. That is the best merit pay you're ever going to receive. I guarantee it, right? If they want to give us more pay, heck yeah, merit pay, give it to us. But my point is, that is your bonus check right there. Every single time you have a former student come up to you, and they're going to tell you what you did for them, and you had no idea at the time that you had that impact on them. My wife has one of the best stories I've ever heard. She had a student that came up to her a number of years ago. He's an adult now. She was a fifth grade teacher like myself. But he came up to her as an adult, and he told her, he recognized her, came up to her and said, "You're Mrs. Cecil, right?" Or at the time, it might have been Miss Granger because it might have been right before we got married. But the point is, he made the connection. She realized who he was. And he said, "I just want to tell you something. I'm so glad I ran into you. I want you to know that I was in jail recently. And suddenly, as I was sitting there thinking about my life, you came into my mind. And I remember you telling me over and over again, don't give up on yourself. Don't quit, because if you do, you're just going to make more problems for yourself. So don't quit. Don't give up." And he said, "I was sitting in jail and I realized I'd quit on myself. I'd given up. And so I remember hearing your voice in my ear over and over again saying, don't quit. And so I made a vow that when I would get out of jail, I would make changes in my life. I'm going to go back to school," he said. I said I was going to go back to school. I was going to get a good job, and I was going to get a family, and I was going to raise that family well. And he says, and I've done all of those things. And I just want you to know how much you meant to me. Tell me if that isn't a gift she'll have for life. Because she had planted seeds in that young man when he was 10 years old in her fifth grade classroom that she never had any idea what happened to him, or if those seeds even started to take root, or if they just blew away in the wind. But they took root. It took a while, but they took root. I want to tell you real quickly about one of my favorite teachers. I've had so many influential teachers, my parents being, I think, most influential. And I'll talk about all these people throughout these episodes if I do enough of them. And if you stick around long enough, which I hope you do, you'll probably hear more about some of these people. But today I want to talk about my sixth grade teacher. His name is Mr. Trekkie. And I had him when I was in sixth grade, and we had moved from Chicago to Pennsylvania, and it was like my second year in Pennsylvania schools. And I was still at a place where I was struggling, just trying to get through every school year. I had a great fourth grade teacher, I remember, Mrs. Bagnall. And I don't remember so much my fifth grade teacher, but I remember my sixth grade teacher, Mr. Trekkie. Something about him, he just caught my attention. And he's the one, I think, that at the time, you're a sixth grader. You don't have it in you to go up to him. At least most kids, sixth grader, boys, I don't think have it in them to go up and say, "Mr. Trekkie, I think you're changing my life. I think you're giving me all these different things to think about." But he was. And at the time, I really didn't have a clue. My parents found a number of years ago a autobiography that I had to write in sixth grade. And I was going through my life, which is hilarious to read, a sixth grader's perspective of your life up to that point. I was listening to some of the teachers, and you could tell I was a kid that struggled and, things I'm not proud about that I was doing. But in sixth grade, all of a sudden I started talking like I had just found the key to something different. And it was changing my thinking and my perspective. And he was an amazing teacher, but I remember some things about him that didn't take root until I actually became a teacher. So I'm going to hold off on those. But the one thing he did that year, two things he did that year, he did a lot of things, but two that I want to talk about. One is that he made me want to come to school every day because he made it interesting. He just was somebody that he was full of energy. And when he came in, he was so excited about what he was doing. He made you get excited. I love teachers like that. They get so excited. Even if you're not even into that subject, they somehow suck you in and you get excited. This is what happened to me in his classroom. He made learning fun and exciting, and he held high expectations. I remember that. He expected you to do the right thing, but he always made time for fun and made it interesting. I remember he talked to my mom at a report card conference, and he said to my mom, and I'm sitting there with them, "Mrs. Cecil, I want to see if you'll make a deal with your son, if you mind if I talk to you about that." And she goes, "No, let me hear more about it." "Well, what I'm hoping is you'll allow him 10 to 15 minutes a night max at bedtime at night with the light on and read for 15 minutes, any book he wants to read, hopefully a novel, and that you can go to the library or you can go to a bookstore. If you don't have any books, I can help you get books." But he said, definitely I want him reading every night for 15 minutes. Now, I know you have other kids. I know he says he's the middle kid of 5, so this may not be something you're going to offer anybody else. It's going to be something special just for Bill. He's saying this right in front of me. He's the perfect salesman. I'm like, yeah, I want to do this. I don't even like reading, but I want to be up later than everybody else. I'll do it. So my mom took me to a bookstore, and I still have a copy of that book sitting on my desk in my office. It's called Goofy Foot. It's about a kid surfer. The authors are Margaret and George Ogan. I'm looking at the book right now. And it's an old beat-up copy of Goofy Foot I found later and bought it because I wanted to keep it as a memento of the first book that changed my life. I don't know why I bought the book, probably because it just looked cool, some kid surfing, and I thought that'd be cool. And so my mom let me stay up and read it. And as sure as I got done reading that book, like Mr. Trekkie told my mom, then maybe he can get another book. So I was hooked. I start reading. Next thing you know, sure enough, reading becomes a habit. This is the kid who never read. This is the kid that struggled, had to go to summer school for my reading. But I was just loved reading, and nobody was quizzing me. And it was just getting into these fun stories and, starting to imagine more. And I was starting to capture the bug of reading, which made me more confident in my classes. I could understand when we had discussions about other books and books we were reading in school. It changed my life. Right there before his eyes, you could see me throughout the rest of that school year growing roots and starting to change. That's one of the ones that he saw instant results. But what he didn't see, what happened was, I still didn't like school overall because it was so embedded in me that I'd rather be doing anything other than school. But I was starting to at least like the social aspect of it. But eventually, for me to become a teacher is amazing in itself. Because like I said before, I didn't even want to go into college. I didn't want to go to college, right? It was soccer that brought me into college. And then my soccer coach brought me into teaching by saying, through the camps, you'd be maybe a good teacher, you should take a course. But it was Mr. Trekkie that I think planted those seeds, because when I figured out they took root as an adult was when I stepped into a group of students for the first time teaching every day. It started to become my habit. It was my first year of teaching on my own. I started to realize I was doing a lot of things that I totally had forgotten that Mr. Trekkie did. For example, he made school fun and interesting. He'd always try to bring his energy into it. I was doing that. I remember one time we were learning about poetry. He brought in the song Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. Imagine 6th graders. At this time, this was a hot #1 song on the radio. We are tearing apart Stairway to Heaven, verse by verse, stanza by stanza. I mean, we are tearing it apart, learning about poetry, and then getting to listen to the song over and over again as we go back and reanalyze what was being said, how he was using images and, different techniques of poetry writing into the music writing. And so we start to take that into other songs and realize, oh, wow, this is so cool. You can use writing to say one thing and mean another. And oh, this is really exciting. Within my first couple of years, I had my kids doing a play of Shakespeare. It was a kid version of Midsummer Night's Dream. And I then had half the class do the regular play for families. And the same night, we had taken months to rewrite that play into also a modern day version. So the other half of the class got to do the modern day version as we also did the traditional child version. And it's like, people are like, that's a great idea. It came from him doing things like that. And I could go on and on and on. But what shocked me when I was reading this little autobiography was, I said somewhere in that paper, I said, this is actually my best year. I didn't say ever, but I've always wondered, where did best year ever come from? I can't help but think that was my first best year ever. And Mr. Trekkie was the one that, without ever saying best year ever, that it somehow stuck in my head. And that's what I wanted to do for other kids, is to help them break out of whatever if the ones that struggled, especially, to all of a sudden now have their best year ever. I was planting seeds. Last thing I want to say about this. Mr. Trekkie changed my life. Mr. Trekkie helped me become a teacher, and the teacher I became. Other people had big influence on me as well, but he was a major influence for sure. Mr. Trekkie, one of his students, I'm just talking about one of his students, me. I became a teacher, and when I was named Michigan Teacher of the Year, I talked to, and I continue to talk to, teachers. And so I've been talking to thousands of teachers over the last 20 years or so since I started speaking. And I'm teaching them some of the techniques that I used in my classroom that I'm sharing with many of these with you, obviously, on this podcast series. But my point is, look at all the people he influenced just by influencing me, one person. And I've gone out and hopefully I've influenced other people. And I know I've had former students that I've influenced, even the ones that didn't go into teaching, because they'll tell me, Mr. Cecil, I'm in business. I use a lot of your ideas, and I use your 3-word doable plan, which I'm going to teach you about next week. So stay tuned. Every year I'm having my best year ever, Mr. Cecil. I still remember this. And it goes on and on and on. I think of all those people they've influenced, and they're not even teachers, but they're out there in the real world doing their thing, and they're influencing their families, their kids, and their kids' kids someday will be influenced maybe by some of what I've taught them, all back, if you could trace it all the way back to Mr. Trekkie. Think of the thousands and thousands and thousands of people he impacted by impacting me. And then times that by all the number of students you have had or are going to have in your career, and how many people that can impact. You know it's going to have an impact. Trust me, based on this one story. I contacted Mr. Truckee. I hunted him down. I did searches. This guy probably was freaked out when I found him. He's a 70-something-year-old man now. But the point is, I contacted him, told him about myself, and I told him the first chance I get, I'm going to talk him up as much as I can. And if I ever rewrite another copy of my book, I'm going to put an actual thank you in the book, because he did something to me that I never told him about, because at 6th grade, I didn't have it in me yet to know that's what was happening. But those seeds took root in that 6th grader's brain many, many years ago, and it transformed my teaching and all the many people I've been able to touch with it, and they've been touched by it, and they're sharing it with others. That's pretty cool. And guess what? That's what each one of you guys get to do. Every day you walk in your classroom, you are planting seeds. I am a teacher, and I make a difference every day. Please don't let the challenges throw you off, make you get despair and give up, right? Like Dr. Viktor Frankl said, find your meaning, and you can deal with the worst conditions. You can deal with those challenges. It made my challenges seem small compared to what I was feeling to take on my challenge or my purpose every day and to bring meaning into my teaching. Everything I filtered through it, even the bad times, but even the good times. I mean, it was just a joy to teach, even during some of the toughest times. I knew that even when I got knocked down, I wasn't going to stay down. I was going to get back up, because my meaning was more important than the challenges that knocked me down. I want that for you. So please stick with me. This is starting to get good. This is the stuff I was talking about. This is the higher purpose stuff that I think is really fun to talk about. I'm still going to empower you and give you some things you can actually use. But every once in a while, I hope you'll listen to these and really take heart. So for now, write that down. Put it on your desk. I am a teacher, and I make a difference every day. And go in and try to make that happen, knowing that even if you don't see it happening every day, you're planting seeds every single day. And keep being a walking, talking, living, breathing billboard that shows people that teachers are up for the challenge and will forever be up for the challenge, because we are on a purpose, mission-driven life to really make a difference in our kids' lives. And it starts with helping them to make it their best year ever, so you can make it your best year ever. So until the next time we talk, I hope you'll do some of that and think about this. And remember, best year ever. You have the power to make it happen.